Hey everyone, are you ready to finish up our December cuties? Hi everyone, Cristin here, and today we are going to finish up our December cuties. So we have our center blocks, our inner borders, and our triangle blocks done. So that means that today we are going to do the outer borders, the corner blocks, the backing, and the binding. And then we will be done. All right, so let's go over what we need for today. So let's start with the corner blocks. The corner blocks are described on page 44, and it's a very simple pocket here. Excuse the sound, I know it's different in this room, it's empty and so it's echoes, sorry about that. All right, so for our corner blocks, we're going to use this red and white striped fabric. And like I mentioned on the prep video, I recommend cutting these to 3 by 3 if you have enough fabric. In the directions, it says 2.5 by 2.5, but my recommendation is 3 by 3. It makes it easy to be able to tack it down, and then we can just trim right on the basting stitch if we stabilized well. So I do stabilize mine. That's optional, but again, it'll make it so that you're not getting that puckering, and it's making it so that it doesn't pull in the stitches and make it smaller. All right, so 3 by 3, 4 pieces, one for each of the corner blocks, 4 pieces, 3 by 3. All right, and then we need our batting, and whether you cut your fabric larger or not, you want your batting to be 3 by 3. 4 pieces of 3 by 3 batting for the corner blocks. All right, 4 pieces, 3 by 3 for your batting. All right, and that's all we need for the corner blocks. So also on the corner blocks, I'm going to bring you over to the machine. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to copy and paste from September. The process is exactly the same. The only difference is that we will use a different quilting. So in September, we use those school buses. And in December, let me pull it up here, we are going to do the corner blocks in Bitty Block Present. Oh, that'll be so cute. Bitty Block Present. So it shows it in a red thread. I will very likely use green, so it'll stand up against those striped red fabrics. But I'm going to show you how to do that in software by just cutting and pasting from previous to save on a little bit of time. Hey everyone, so I'm at my computer and I'm going to quickly show you how to join the corner blocks together. I'm going to open up Brilliance Essentials. That's the embroidery software that I use. Down here at the bottom, you can see I'm on my 9 by 14 hoop. I'm going to change this. I'm going to go to this preferences folder. Click on that, and I'm going to use my 6 by 6 hoop. You can also use your 5 by 7 hoop. Will fit 4 of these blocks just fine. But I prefer to use my 6 by 6. I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to click on compass and H, and then I'm going to start by bringing in the quilting design. So I'm going to go to merge stitch file, and then I need those bitty blocks right there. Bitty blocks is the first folder in the download from the bundle of quilting for the July through December cuties. So we're looking for the bust. The very first one is the bust. So double click on that. It goes to the center. While it's here, I'm going to go ahead and quickly change all these default blues and oranges will join together if we don't change the color of them, so that what we want to join will join and what we don't want to join won't join. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this first one. So 1-1, click on the color, and the first color that comes up for me is dark aqua. I'm going to choose that since it doesn't matter what color we choose. I'm just going to use the first one that comes up for me. So then 1-2, click on the color, and the first color is Blaze for me. 1-3, click on the color, and the second one down, because we already used dark aqua, so I'm going to use Marine. And again, these are Filtec Glide. That's my preferred thread color. That's why it comes up that way. You can change that in your preferences folder, or yes, up here in preferences. I think you can also do it here. All right, so anyway, 1-4, click on the color, and we already used Blaze, so I'm going to use Oriole. And then 1-5, click on the color, and I'm just going to change it to Sprout. You don't need to because it's really only there one time, but since I'm there, might as well. All right, now, if I were to do a copy and paste right now, it's just going to do this last part because that's what is selected. So make sure to click outside of the stitch area in the workplace to be able to deselect them. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to click on the design, because that will give me all 5 steps. And I'm going to go ahead and just move it. You have to click on the stitching to be able to move it. All right, so that's the first one. I'm going to say Control C to copy it now that we've already changed the colors, and I'm going to say Control V like victory to paste it. My V doesn't seem to like to work. Let's try this again. Control C, Control V, there we go. Now we have 2 designs. It's right on top of the first one, so it doesn't look like it's there, but it is. I can use the my mouse button or my mouse or my keyboard arrow key to move it over. Either way will work fine. All right, and then I can just hit Control V to get a third one because it's already copied from before. And this one I can just use the down arrow key to move it down to the bottom here. And then Control V again. And this one I am going to go ahead and bring it over with my mouse. All right, so there's our 4 designs. They're all in the corner. I have plenty of room for them, so that's all perfect. The only thing I need to do left is to color sort, and you can see down here at the bottom that I have 20 color steps. You don't need to close these designs, I just chose to. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Utility Color Sort. Make sure that you have these same settings that I have. Tolerance 0, RHS pre-sort is not selected, force applique, position and material are not selected. Now notice it looks a little funny. It doesn't show the full lines, but they are there. You don't need to worry. This is just like a thumbnail view type of thing. But it says it has reduced the design by 15 color changes. So I'm going to click New View to check it and make sure that it did what I think it should do. So there's our placement for our batting, our tack down for our batting, our placement for the main fabric, our tack down for our main fabric, and the 4 school bus designs. So that's perfect. I'm going to click elsewhere to be able to do a file, save stitch file as, and I am going to go back to my quilting. Sorry, I'm getting a message. Let's see. So Cuties table topper, and I'm going to look for my quilting down here, I believe. There it is. Just July through December. Perfect. Embroidery files, Pez, and then I'm going to save it in my bitty block so that if I use the bus again, I'll be ready for it. I've got my block by block, and I'm going to say bitty bus times 4. All right, and save. Whatever you want to name it will work fine. And then I'm going to go ahead and send it to my machine since my machine is on and ready to play. So I go to Utility, Send to Solaris XP1. If you don't have a machine that does that, you would just transfer it to a USB stick, and that is all done. All right, let's get stitching our corner blocks. All right, and after we have our corner blocks, then it's time to do the outer borders. So outer borders are described on page 45 of our Cuties book, and it's very simple. Look at, we've got our green fabric and our batting. That's it. So for our green fabric, it is the green with what I call starbursts on it. All right, and we want 4 pieces. Let me pull up the size here. 4 pieces that are, and I mentioned in the prep video that I do recommend cutting them a little bit bigger. So 4 pieces. In the directions it says 2.5 by 18. I cut mine to 20 inches long. So 4 pieces, 2.5 by 20 inches long is my recommendation. Just to make sure you have enough, you've got a little wiggle room just in case. So that then when we cut it down in assembly, it'll fit all just right, just in case it happened to be a little bit short. I've had that happen one time and I'll never have it happen again. All right, so 2.5 by 24 pieces for our outer borders. I did stabilize mine so that they will not pull in, but that's optional. All right, and then for our batting, we want 4 pieces of batting. And just like we did our inner borders, I'm gonna attach them on to the fabric strips, and then we'll bypass those first 2 steps of the quilting. So on the batting for these, we want them to be exact. So 2 by 17.5, 4 pieces that are 2 inches wide by 17.5 inches long. All right. And as you're attaching that, don't forget to just check, and because it can grow a little bit, it can get a bit longer as we're pushing it down. So 17.5, and check it to make sure it hasn't gotten longer as we get putting that glue stick on. You can either use a glue stick or you can use the fabric spray, whichever works for you. I really like the glue stick. I think it's just so easy and it gets it right where you want it, and it's not messy. That fabric spray, I don't like it because it's so messy. So I use these Elmer's glue sticks. It's purple, so you can see it going on. You can get it right in the spot that you want it. If you haven't bought these, I'll add a link here from Amazon. They come super quick, and I use them all the time. So they're great for the borders and adding on the batting. All right, so that's our outer borders. We'll move on from there. And I forgot to mention, for the quilting, we're going to use, border braid in a 2-inch design, border braid. And we did this same design in September, so I'm going to cut and paste and make this a really quick and easy video for me for editing. So I already have the file saved since we made it in September. If you haven't already, I'll cut and paste and add that tutorial on how to do that in embroidery software. I use Embrilliance Essentials. I highly recommend it. If you haven't bought Embrilliance Essentials, I'll add a link here. This is an affiliate link. It helps my channel when you use my affiliate link to be able to purchase Embrilliance Essentials. And like I said, we're going to use border braid in a 2-inch design, and I already have it saved, so I'm going to go ahead and just send it to my machine, but I'll add the tutorial from when we did it in September. Essentials, and I'm on my 6x6 hoop. I think I'm going to need my 10x10, so I'm going to go to Preferences folder, click on that, and I'm going to go to my 10x10 hoop. Other hoops will work as well, but I'm going to use 10x10, I believe. All right, so this compass button, then H to have it zoom into my hoop, and I'm going to go to Merge Stitch File, and I am looking for border braid in a 2-inch design. So if we go to border, there it is, Stars and Braids, this one. And there's our border stars from our inner border. We're going to do the outer border now, which is the braid. So I'm going to click on this 2x10 and see what size this is. That's a really pretty design. That's fun. All right, click on that. And it is, click on the design, it is 9 5/16 long. And we want 18 inches of quilting, I believe. Let's see, page 45. All right, so we want outer borders, we want, looks like 17. Outer borders are 18 inches long, and we're going to have batting 17.5. So we want 18 inches of quilting. So if I do the 10-inch design twice, that will give me a little bit more than 18 or close to 19, and that actually will be perfect. So the excess will just run off on the stabilizer. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to try and get all 4 in one hooping. So I'm going to go ahead and just move this over using my arrow keys on my keyboard to the very, very end without going over the side of the hoop. And then, as always, I want to change these. Now I want to point out I'm clicking outside so nothing is selected. you don't need, if you're going to add that batting on, like I explained in the beginning, if you're going to add that batting on, then you can click on step 1 and step 2 and delete those. You won't need those. Those are the placement and tack down of the batting, which we're going to add on already. So you can click on those and delete them very easily. And then you'll just have these 3 steps, which are all different colors. So you would not need to change any colors to do a color sort. All right, so you don't need those 2. I'm going to keep them in just so I can remember to tell everyone to bypass them for those that are not using software. So I'm just going to change the one color that is the same, this default one, blue. And again, you don't need to do this, but I'm going to do that. So I'm going to click on 1, click on the color, and I'm going to change it to dark aqua and say okay. The rest of these are different colors, so they are not going to join together. So that is perfect. All right, so I'm going to click outside of the area so that that one item is not selected, then click back on the full design so that I have all 5 steps, and I'm going to say Control C to copy, and then Control V like victory to paste a second one. And it goes right on top of that first one. I'm going to go ahead and grab it and just move it over a little haphazardly. All right, and then Control V for a third one, and then again click on the stitching, grab it and move it over, and Control V like victory for a fourth one. Since we already changed those colors, we don't need to worry about since we already changed the colors, we don't need to worry about anything. We have to click on that stitching to move it over, and everything will be fine as far as the color sort. Before we do a color sort though, we need to make sure to align and distribute these. We have these 4 and you can see I did them haphazardly so that we could do that align and distribute. I need all the testing with the align and distribute that I can take because I always forget the settings on that one. So for these 4 things, I'm going to go ahead and close these design files so that I can select all of them. I'm just clicking from the bottom and dragging up to select all 4 so that we can tell the software what we want to align. So I'm going to go to Utility, Align and Distribute. And remember, you have to do this before a color sort, because once you do a color sort, those 4 designs turn into one design, and then you will not be able to move parts of them. They'll all be together. All right, so I think, let's see. I think I will do just this center button, I think. Let's try it. Say apply. Yep, that did it. Hey, we actually remembered. Pretty cool. And they look like they're already pretty well distributed, but I'm going to go ahead and click on that distribute button, and I'm going to keep center, center, and click apply and see if they move at all. There was a little bit of movement. All right, so those are done. You can see that they are all centered very well and aligned just right. So I'm going to do my color sort. Right now we have 20 color steps. I'm going to go to Utility, Color Sort, keeping in mind that the same settings that I have as here. All right, and I'm going to click New View. It says it's reduced it by 15 color changes. I always check New View just to make sure that it did what I think it should do. So steps 1 and 2 are those ones that you don't need, the placement of the batting and the tack down of the batting, because we're going to add that on, and I don't need it either, but I am going to keep it in just to remind everyone to bypass it that's not using software. All right, and then the third one is the placement of our main fabric strips and the tack down of the main fabric strips, and then there's our quilting. That is really cute. It makes me think of owl eyes. It's a very pretty braid, and yet for some reason I'm focusing on these 2 sides that make me think of owl eyes. Does anyone else see that? Is it just me? That's funny. All right, so that's done. I'm going to do a file, save stitch file as. Remember, always save as, because otherwise you're saving over the first thing that you brought in, and we want a save as so that we have that different file, the new file. All right, so I am going to go to embroidery files. It was the border stars and braid, the 4th folder down, and I'm going to say, what is it, 2 by 10 times 4 is what I'm doing. All right, and maybe I'll say braid. I think it was a braid, right? All right. 2 times 10, because I'm using the 10-inch design, and it's 2 inches times 10 inches, and then it is times 4 because there's 4 strips on here, and it's the braid design. Save, and then I'm going to send it to my machine, Utility, send to Solaris, And boom, file sent to machine. All right, so now we're ready to get started on our outer borders. All right, next up, after we have our corner blocks and our outer borders, then we're going to do our backing. So the backing, you can see some information on page 44 and 45, and it's just this red silky solid. So in the book, it shows that we have the star fabric, or flowers, I guess it's flowers. Anyway, but I received a red silky solid, and this works great. Excuse Archer sighing. So the red silky solid, it says in the directions that we need 24 by 24, but I don't pre-cut it. I just lay it out and then I put my top on there and then pin it from there. So that's what works for me. Do what works for you, but make sure that you've got enough. Some people stabilize their back fabric. I do not. I definitely prefer not to, but it's an option for you if you prefer. Some people add another layer of batting. I don't do that. We've got all that batting in our blocks, so I don't feel it's necessary. But again, you do you. So 24 by 24 minimum. I don't pre-cut it. I don't stabilize it. Back fabric, plain silky solid. Let's get started. And if you haven't stitched in the ditch before, don't worry, it's not scary at all. I'll show lots of photos of how to do it. I just pin all of the blocks and get it all ready and then use my walking foot to be able to stitch in the ditch. It's really easy, just give it a try. And last step after we've got all that is our binding. All right, so the binding is described on page 45. It is this red flower fabric. And the biggest thing I can tell you, don't stabilize your binding fabric. Absolutely don't. I've done it before. It can be done, but it makes it really hard to make those mitered corners. So I definitely recommend not stabilizing your binding fabric. The other thing is I cut 3 strips that are 2.5 inches times width of fabric in the directions it has you saving fabric a little bit by doing it a little differently. They have it as binding 2 strips that are 2.5 times width of fabric and 1 strip that is 2.5 by 20. I find it easier to just cut 3 strips straight off from the fabric that are width of fabric, 3 strips that are 2.5 inches times width of fabric, and then I don't stabilize that, and then I stabilize the rest because we used it for our inner borders. So that's what works for me. Just try not to stabilize it. So 3 pieces at 2.5 times width of fabric, or like it says in the directions, 2 that are 2 pieces that are 2.5 times width of fabric and 1 that's 2.5 by 20. Either way will work fine. All right, let's go ahead and get started binding. I will add lots of photos of how I make those mitered corners and what works and what doesn't and all of that. Let's get started.